So as cliche as this term might be by this point, I would still describe myself as a hardcore foodie, always looking for new restaurants to try and new cuisines. And between Baltimore and DC, there seems to be an endless amount of exciting options. The world is my oyster. That is until a few years ago when I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease. And I wanted to explore addressing this in a more holistic way, and that meant, in addition to taking the medication prescribed to me by my MD, I was going to look into other factors like food sensitivities and diet. To address my particular condition, with the help of a naturopath doctor, I decided to cut out gluten, dairy, and soy. A little bit of a doozy. I avoid these foods as much as possible, so obviously that makes dining out a little complicated sometimes. I used to go to restaurants and look at the menu and think, ooh, what am I gonna have? Now I look at the menu and think, what can I have? So while it's challenging, I'm fortunate that in general I find many restaurants to be very accommodating. With my history in restaurants, I know that it's best to be prepared, so I always try to look at the menu ahead of time, and especially with a reservation, whenever possible, I try to give the restaurant a heads up as to my specific food things so that the server can be prepared and is generally able to answer questions a lot easier. I also find that some places don't necessarily update their gluten-free notations regularly, so I always check when there's a dish that I'm really interested in, can't figure out why it might not fit my needs. I always check with the server just in case. We're here with Chef Victor. Chef, how do you and your team handle dietary restrictions at the Maryland Club?
Well, at the Maryland Club, we handle it really simply. On the menu that is already provided, the one that we have written as a club as a whole, there are gluten-free and dairy-free options on the menu. Something to explore would be in the future, maybe putting a GF or a heart around those options. But they are on the menu, but this is a wonderful discussion, Rachel, and I really appreciate the feedback with this in particular. And with that being said, moving forward, if certain members have a dietary restriction, the best thing to do would be to email myself or Rachel, which already takes place right now. And I'm fortunate enough to have personal relationships with many of the members, looking to grow that repertoire, so to speak. So if there's anything that anyone would need dietary wise, or anything in general as to how to make an event or an evening special, please feel free to reach out to Rachel or myself, and we will take care of you. Again, we're in the hospitality business. We really enjoy what we do, and we look forward to servicing you soon.
As Chef said, just let us know if you have any questions about the menu or any dietary restrictions that we can make special accommodations for. So luckily for me, I'm also a pretty good cook, and I'm always looking for ways to adjust recipes and new techniques to learn at home. I'm also really lucky to have so many dietary restriction-friendly ingredients out there, like gluten-free ingredients, dairy-free cheeses, and even soy-free soy sauces. I've also found some really fun kitchen hacks that have allowed me to cook some recipes that I thought maybe I wasn't going to be able to have anymore. And today with Chef Victor, we're going to cook some gluten-free crab cakes using some gluten-free panko made from rice checks. So this is actually a super duper easy thing to do. I've also had really great success with making fried oysters and fried chicken with these. Easy. You can either use a blender or your little at-home food processor, but you can also just use a plastic bag. So for this recipe that we're going to make, you want a little more texture to this, so you don't want to blend it up too much. So we're just going to put it in a bag, seal her up a little bit, and mash it. So as you can see, we have a pretty fine texture there, but we still have some texture going on. So this is best for the crab cakes because you don't want it to be too fine. Now if you were making fried chicken or oysters, you probably want it to be a little more fine. So I'm going to hand this off to Chef.
Oh, right here I have a pound of crab, and I also have what is called an imperial sauce. And traditionally at the Maryland Club, we take the crab and we take 1/3 of a cup of the imperial sauce, which is just pretty much eggs, mayonnaise, Old Bay, dry mustard. We will have the exact recipe in the blurb that follows this video. But with that being said, we normally do 4 pieces of bread with the crust cut off, but Rachel's life hack and cooking hack, which is really wonderful to make this gluten-free, we are going to use her Chex Mix. So again, this was filled about 3 cups high.
Yeah, so this is equaling, yeah.
Yep. So, you know, again, it's a feel thing, so you don't want to add all of it right away because it's easier to add than it is to take out. So we'll use 1/3 of a cup, which would be 3.5 of these. And so again, it's a feel thing. So again, traditionally, this is again a pound of fresh Maryland crab meat. Right here, we would use, at the Maryland Club, we would use 4 pieces of bread with the crust cut off. Feels a smidge wet, so again, we have about the 3 cups of what Rachel crushed up for us. So I'm gonna add the whole thing because it's a fine balance of how you wanna make your crab cake. This looks really good. And normally we use a ice cream scoop, but for the home cook, it's not really, has to be precise, so we will add those on there. So that right there is about a 4.5 ounce crab cake. And again, if you want to make everyone uniform, just take a purple handle ice cream scoop, and you can just use the ice cream scoop. As a gluten-free option, it's going to taste really, really good. Gluten and dairy-free option. So now we're going on. We'll do 1 more and then we'll get 4 out of the pound. And of course, if you want to make them smaller, crab balls, appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, feel free to make these crab cakes or crab balls, however you want to call them, any size that you want. And there's a smidge too. Just again, not really being too precise. You're at home cooking with your family, having fun. That way you utilize all the crab. Henry, yeah, I was gonna say, don't show that right there. And then over here I have a little bit of Old Bay, and I like to, along with the Old Bay that you sprinkled in when you made the Royale, again, recipe to follow. Some. And then we will pop them in the oven here. This is a preheated 450 degree oven. I would let those go for, say, probably 9 minutes to 11, but we'll check them. Hopefully you enjoy them. And
I know I will.
we will have the finished product very soon.
So those crab cakes ready, Chef?
Absolutely. Hold on 1 second. Again, this was a 450 degree oven. So we have 2 right here that came out really well. Again, these are made with the rice checks as opposed to the bread. And they are actually adhering very well. Very nice. So we have that. And then if you remember, we had 4. But to me, this just shows you the human element of one of them sort of exploded. Maybe I made it too big, but again, you know, human error is real. So we'll do the 3. And then you could try to like form it back, but then again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. So these are actually Rachel's version of a gluten-free crab cake, and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. And thank you for the discussion. And we look forward to serving you at the Maryland Club very soon.
Should we taste them?
Absolutely, we should taste
I
it.
think so.
I apologize.
I went with the crumbly ones, right?
Yeah.
Delish.
This is my first attempt at a crab cake that has not been bound by bread, but opposed to the rice checks that Rachel crushed up earlier. Very good.
Well, thanks for watching,
Wow.
you guys. We hope that maybe you give this recipe a try, and we look forward to seeing you get it in the club soon.